Get the recording going. All right, morning. Welcome everybody. So today, Verne has given us this little challenge. Being able to adapt to the endless social, business and familial interactions that arise through one's lifetime is important in retaining one's success, happiness and sanity. One of the keys to successful adaptation is understanding and accepting that things don't always go according to plan. If you walk into a situation expecting a return, sorry, I'm just busy letting people in at the same time. Expecting a certain outcome, you will need to be willing to compromise and be prepared for your plans to be altered in the name of the situation turning out the best in the long run. So, Verne, I think on that note, I better just hand it over to you to explain to all of us where your thinking was going on that one and see how we can take it from there.
So I write a lot more expansively than I speak. So, but there's basically two aspects to this. And one is how we need to adapt to the different people that we interact with or the different situations we find ourselves in. And do we remain the same, exact same person and react in the same way in the different situations like social, business and around our family? And the second part of this is learning to adapt to a path towards your goal. If you become set in a specific steps to reach your goal, you can become very obstructive to actually reach the goal. Whereas if you are prepared when you get to an obstacle to find a slightly different route, but still maintain your goal in mind, it actually can sometimes have a better outcome. And that's where I was aiming for. I found myself dividing myself into very specific personalities. One was family, or one was social, including family, and the other was business. I never ever socialized with my business partners, and I never brought my social life into my business environment. And I found that keeping those totally separate and being it really was two different personalities was actually a really big strain. And it took a lot of therapy to get me to learn that you can actually combine them with quite a lot of success, that you can bring some of your social interaction into your business environment. I would never sit down with a client and say, hello, how are you? How's the family? How's the boys? Because to me, that is social. It was just business. And I found that I developed a lot stronger relationships with my clients when I realized that people actually want that social interaction in a business environment as well. I'm not saying in every situation, but in most situations. And then learning to adapt to, I was very, very controlling, and I wanted to control something from the beginning to the end, every step along the way, everything was planned. And my therapist once said to me, you can be very spontaneous as long as you plan to be spontaneous, then you can do it. So, and I've learned that it makes life a lot easier. I have a lot less stress and a lot less confrontations if I can just learn to adapt to situations, but without losing my end goal, the end goal that I had in mind. So that's basically what I had in mind for today. Thank you.
Great, thanks, Verne. Yeah, just welcome back to Mpumalelo. Long time no see. And Donovan, good to see you guys again this morning. I won't jump onto you straight away this morning. I'll give you a little bit of breathing space. But I think what we need to do is go to Trevor Nell next. Trevor, can you unravel any of that for us? Looks like Trevor might have frozen on us. Okay. Trevor, are you there? No? All right, so we're going to have to go to the master interpreter. So Ed, it's over to you.
I think Trevor's just play acting, actually, just to avoid the question. Interesting enough, when I read, because I always believe in read the question and answer it. And when I read the email, there was no question in there. And I was totally in a panic. And I thought about, well, when I was an accountant, you didn't really need to have any personality. You were judged on the job you did. You know, if you got the calculation right, fine. If the audit went well, fine. And then when I became a partner, you had to have a bit of a personality because you needed to win clients and impress people. And then when I became a manager outside of accountancy, and I became the sort of leader of an organization, to get the best out of people, you really needed to show your human side. So I've kind of learned to adapt to allow my human side to come through and understand that you don't just bang in there and say, where's your books? You say, how's the family? Where's your books? But a couple of stories quite interested me. My uncle Hugh was a bit of a maverick. And when he was young, he had to do his national service. And the first day he arrived, he had to share a sort of hut with, 12 other guys. And my uncle liked to sleep with the window open. And he got into bed. Well, he opened the window, got into bed, and a guy from just a bit further down the hut came along and closed the window. So my uncle got out of bed, opened the window, went back to bed, and the guy came and opened and closed the window again. And this went on a couple of times. And the last time, my uncle got out of bed, picked his boot up and smashed the glass and said, now try closing that. And I think that's probably what Verne means about being adaptable, still meeting your goal, but being adaptable. And the other story was after Comrades one year, a group of us decided to come to Cape Town to have a bit of R&R, and we wanted to go up Table Mountain. And the cable car was closed for repairs. So we thought, okay, not a problem, we'll walk up. And my friend Mike wanted to go up Skeleton, I can never say the word, Skeleton Gorge. But I'd arranged to meet some people who lived in Cape Town. And they said, well, look, let's meet at Paterclip because it's easy for us. We need to leave after a while. So Mike, with a bit of a grump, decided he'd come with us and go up Paterclip, and he was moaning away. And then my friend got to the top and said, look, we need to go now, so we'll go back down, but you just wander around, enjoy yourselves. So Mike had a little map or a guidebook or something, and he's always said, there'll be a really great view of the other way over here. And he took us over there and he took us there. And eventually he said, I think we can get down from here. And we'd got to the start by taxi. And the taxi driver said, don't pay me now. Phone me when you've finished and I'll come back and get you. That way I get 2 fares and you'll definitely get picked up. So I said, well, we've got to go down Paterclip to get because that's where the guy's going to meet us. And Mike said, no, don't worry about that. Anyhow, we goes down this gorge and halfway down, I says to Mike, I said, what's this place called? And he said, Skeleton Gorge. So Mike had got his own way. And yeah, we got down to the bottom and it comes out in the botanical gardens. And there was a restaurant where we had a nice cold beer. And I phoned the taxi driver up and said, can you come and pick us up? And by the way, we're not where you think we are, we're somewhere else. And I think that's another great story of everyone getting their own way in the end and having a great beer at the end of it. So that's about all I can contribute.
Thanks. Yeah, great story, and it's always good to end with a cold castle. So I think that's that's a good one. So we better get across to Trevor Carty on that note. I think Trevor, yeah, cold black label. I think in your case,
always a cold black label. Yeah. So I think I must have misread the entire story for this morning because I thought it was all about fairness. But I've been on a boat for a couple of days, and then I've been having interaction with my 15 new staff in KZN. And it's quite lekker when you go and you meet people that you've never met for the first time. And you're going to tell them that you're their new boss. And you've got to try and work out how you're going to handle this. So do you just be yourself or do you try and be someone else? Now, here's the trick. You can't be someone else. You can only be yourself. So if you're trying to dress yourself up for an occasion, you're going to find yourself inevitably coming short. But we had this one guy, his name's Kim, and I'd been warned by my general manager who picked me up on the way to the Kloof Country Club, which is a great place for a conference. He said, look, we got this guy, Kim. He's not really good. I just don't have the heart to fire him. I said, well, what's the deal? He says, no, he's got a mindset problem. So what's his mindset? He says, no, he just works in the hairdresser market and he doesn't think he can ever work outside the hairdresser market. And I said, okay, what sort of money does he make? And he told me, and I said, no, you should fire him. I said, as a matter of fact, today I'll fire him. He said, no, you can't. I said, no, I can. I said, you know, if we're a performance-based organization, and performance is how we judge what we're doing, he said, okay, well, just give it a go. And fire him at the end of the day. Let's see if you can't motivate him, inspire him, do something. So we had the day's training, and we launched something really cool, really new, really never done, and really with a huge amount of potential for money to be made by all the guys. And this guy then said, all right, no, he thinks he'd like to see if he can't move away from the hairdresser market and into this medical malpractice market. And he wrote his exams last night. He was the first guy to qualify. When I went in this morning online overnight, he's gone on to go and do his accreditations. And then he phoned my general manager early this morning. And he said, listen, can we talk about the commission split? And the general manager phoned me and said, he wants to discuss the commission split. I said to him, you tell him when he's written 100 cases, he can come and talk about the commission split. So sometimes you've got to stand firm, but I didn't fire him. And clearly something inspired him. And I don't know, could this be the new Kim? Because then he's reinventing himself, because he's going from hairdressing.
Trevor, you still there? We lost you for a moment.
Sorry, guys. Yeah, sorry, incoming call. So yeah, fairness, reinventing yourself. I don't know. You just are who you are, but you're not in control. As much as you think you're in control, you're not in control. And the universe is in control. The oak who made the universe is in control. And whatever happens is because you took a deviation out of the line of control. But it will come back into order. And just trust the process.
Great, thanks, Trevor. Yeah, it's always nice when somebody turns around like that and shows that they actually do have great potential instead of being locked into their little paradigm. So good one there. So Cecile, let's get across to you. How's your little paradigm? We were talking about it before we started.
Yeah. I will go right back to when I left school. I had all these great plans to become a social worker, and my place was booked in the res. My studies, I was already enrolled in Free State University to be a social worker, and then I got pregnant. So that put a little bit of a damper on things, and my twin sister, because we were supposed to be doing this together. So my dad, and then to top it all, my baby was born kind of right at the end of the year on the 20th of December. And I thought, okay, what now? Now the plans change again. But anyway, so then my dad said to me, why don't you, he was in the hospital admin, whatever. He said to me, why don't you study radiography? So I said, what is radiography? And he said, well, when you take x-rays, you study and you get paid a salary at the same time. So I thought, okay, I'm going to be the head of a household, in the meantime, my baby died. But I'm going to be the head of the household, and we need an income. And on the 4th of January, I started studying radiography. And I got a grand salary of, when I qualified, of 525 Rand a month. Probably less than that before. But so the next 3 years I studied radiography and I loved it. So the life that I had seen for myself kind of changed completely. But I loved being a radiographer. And then I changed after my other children were born, and a friend of mine at the squash clubs once said to me, "Oh, Cecile, we need a sales manager for our telecoms company." So I said, "What do I know about telecoms?" He said, "I'll teach you." So I said, "Okay." So for the next year or so, well, 6 months, he took me under his wing, and he took me everywhere because he was a big consultant and Discovery and Rand Merchant and all these companies were his clients. But he took me with him because he was my friend. And yeah, so after 6 years with him, I started my own company. And this is now 16 years later with my own telecoms company that I knew nothing about. And then during all this time, I used to do, some of you know, the old guys know, that I did heptathlon, which gives you 7 events in athletics. And on each of the events, you do your event, and you score on an international points table. So you have the plans, you have the, let's say, 7,000 points that you're aiming at. But then sometimes, and you only, in normal athletics, you get six tries for long jump and javelin and those stuff. But for heptathlon, you only get 3. So sometimes, and javelin was a brand new event at the time. And I don't know if any of you have done javelin, but you can throw the javelin as far as you want to, but if it doesn't actually pick or make a mark, you have a no throw. And the same with the long jump. If you step over the mark 3 times, you have a no jump, and then you get 0 points. But then you have to move on. You've got to change your, carry on and not be down in the dumps, and just make sure that you do your best for the next event. So yeah, so that taught me life lessons all along the way. And in business, when I started my own business, I knew it was a lot about relationships. So my company's name is Chit Chat Telecoms. So I talk to people, and I've always had the gift to talk to people, and in a short time they tell me about themselves. So all my customers I know well. When I meet them, we talk about their families, their business. I ask them how's business really going, all that kind of stuff. So in the last 16 years, most of my customers have become a little bit of my friend. When they phone me, they say, "Hello, Chit Chat." So they forgive me when I chat, and they chat. So yeah, so that's how I try to adapt. Now moving to the platteland, I understand that all business is based on relationships between business owners. So yeah, we'll put it to the test and see how it goes. So that's my adaptability and whatever stories.
Great, thanks, Cecile. So Jasper, that sounds like a lead into you. I mean, there must be some form in there, and perhaps so 'n bietjie spiesgooi ook, ek weet nie, maar
No, I can certainly not relate to Cecile's athletic abilities, and I think, like we've echoed a few times around this room, all of us want to be Cecile when we grow up, when we get to that point. But when this topic came up about I think the way Verne phrased it was almost to say, be careful how you define your goal and how rigid you are about it, or maybe not so much the goal, but the journey to the goal, because life is going to throw you curveballs. I think, and what Cecile brings up is almost this healthy stress between being task-orientated versus the relationship. And I loved what Ed said there in his opening, where he said he moved from being totally the figure man and say, where are your books? And he then learned how to relate to people, to say, hello, how is your family? And give me the books. So sometimes it's quite a stress for us to become the other person. But I think it's good that there is a stress, a healthy stress between task and relationship. And if we're not careful, we can be sucked in. And I know Trevor Nell loves this lovey-dovey relationship kind of thing with people, and it leads to nothing, but he just loves sitting around having coffee with people. Whereas there's the rest of us who are very task-orientated and say, get to the point. But is to find this healthy middle ground. And I think as we get older, we probably can read people better. We can read situations better. And you can find a nice way of telling people, all right, this conversation is now over, get on with it, or I'm moving on. And I think something like a Zoom is or this lockdown has helped us a lot, because people don't know where you are. So I'm constantly, if I'm in a difficult conversation and they ramble on and I now need to finish this off, I say, listen, that was nice talking to you, but I have to run. I've got a next meeting. Doesn't matter when the next meeting is. So we find nice ways to extract ourselves from call it the relationship side of things that goes nowhere. But I think it's healthy, because in the end, the reality is we do business with people that we like and that we trust. And how do you get to like and trust people if you don't relate and have some engagements? But I like what Verne was alluding to in terms of don't stop the goal, but be willing to change the plans. And many years ago, when I was training people on this whole thing of, you are the one who actually defined the goal. And sometimes we are so over optimistic and we define the goal so narrowly that just from the way it's set up, we're already going to miss the goal. And if you keep on missing a goal over and over, after a while, your spirit is broken and you give up. And I often use the example of playing darts. So let's say none of us know the rules of darts, but we've got a dartboard and we've got some darts to start something. Now, how do we define the game? So if you define the game as we must hit the bull, and only if we hit the bull, that counts 50 points. Anything outside that counts nothing. And the whole object is who can score the most points. But what if I come along and I say, okay, my object on this whole thing is I've never played darts before. Every time I hit the board, I will check where I hit it, whether it's a 1 or a 20 or a double or a trip, and we just add up the points. And if that's my game rules and my goal, and your goal is, I don't forgive myself if I miss the bull, I only like myself when I hit the bull, then I will probably end up developing into a very good dart player, because I get encouraged all the way, because most often I hit the dartboard somewhere, and after a while I get my rhythm in. But you who just have this narrow focus of the bull, after a while will say, stupid game, let's give up, move on to the next thing. And I think sadly most people are like that in their lives, that they set such narrow, almost unachievable goals instead of breaking it down into more achievable goals. And then the reality is plans change. Here we are in a 2020 that none of us could foresee. But I think because we adjusted, we could now we can now look back at 2020 and say it was probably an extremely active year that sets us for the good for the time to come. Yeah, so I think I just rambled a bit on playing around with the definition of a goal versus a plan. So the reality is a plan is made to change because you don't know enough about it up front. But I also want to caution to be not too narrow on the goal, because when you start off, you're so far from the goal, you don't understand the field too well. Just stay in the vicinity of the goal, and then you can narrow down as you move forward.
Thanks, Jasper. It was nice listening to you, but I've got another meeting now. I've got to run, so we'll kick off with that one. But yeah, it reminds me of your story at the end. It reminds me of little thing, a joke that I saw about this chap who said to his wife, you know, we need to go on a trip, so I'm going to stick a map up on the world map up on the wall, and you can throw a dart at it, and where the dart lands, I'll take you for a holiday. So his wife took the dart and threw it, and he said, well, okay, that's great. We're going to spend 3 weeks behind the refrigerator. So you got to be careful what you aim for when you're throwing your darts. So right, Donovan, let's get across to you next.
Thanks, Ivan. Morning, everyone. Nice to be back. Yes, yeah, it's actually for me, it's a balancing act. You know, how you love with people, how you love in front of people. You know, how you love in the absence of people. I think someone once said, if you know how to behave in public, then you are a grown-up. But whatever you do behind the scenes, that's up to you. But I think that also impacts you, because you might project something without your choice, or inadvertently. So it's important how you behave when you're alone, and also how you behave when you're with people, because that also influences them, and in turn it will influence you. So that's why I'm saying it's a tricky act. It's it's a total balancing act. And you basically get what you ask for, whether you like it or not. What you do, you will receive it in return. Thank you.
Great, thanks, Donovan. Yeah, I think it's always good to try and stick to being yourself. So, Mpumelelo, are you yourself this morning? I haven't seen you for a while. Welcome back.
Yeah, good morning to everyone. It's great to see you guys again. I didn't know I missed you guys until I joined today. So yeah, I've been missing you, Trevor, as well. Both Trevors, for that matter. Yeah, and Edward, I've been thinking about you, especially now that I've gone back to gym and the marathon again. So you came to mind. Yeah, I'm finding this, and hi Verne, I don't think we've interacted much, but yeah. Look, I find this topic very interesting. It just so happened I was able to join in today and you guys are speaking about this. And the reason why it's interesting is that I'm one person for the longest time who was very much of the persuasion that goals were very much linked to the plan. And what would happen is that when the plan does not work out the way it was intended, then the goal will also fade, or there will be that feeling of, I've lost what I've been trying to do. And so I've had to, over time, learn that a goal is not necessarily linked to the plan. It doesn't mean because the plan doesn't work out that the goal is not working out. It just means, how do you then find another way to get to the plan? I'm still in the process of learning that. I have to say, having a family has played a big role in learning that. Kids and family, you have plans of how things are going to work out, and they don't. And you just have to continuously figure out, how do I still make it happen, given the fact that everything is in that way. But the second thing I probably learned out of that was that there has to be a place in one's minds and heart that we are not always in control. I think the biggest challenge we have, or let me speak of myself, is that you always want to be in control of things and how they work out, and how they, and I think that does not leave room, it does not leave, you almost are in control of everything. Whereas things in life, learned that the hard way. I'm still learning it. I'm still, one part though I've been, that when it comes to that, I've been able to adapt with different people, different age group. I've had in my own life, I've been able to adapt. Where I'm still learning, and it's great to hear from you guys, is when things change and you've had, and how do you adapt? Admit I'm very good at visualizing, and that becomes such a strong picture in my head that when that it does bring a lot of disappointment. But yeah, great to hear from you guys, and I'm learning that I have to be more and more able to adapt to situation and changes. So yeah, let me leave it at that. I feel like saying, and I haven't seen you in a while, man.
Yeah, great to see you again, Mpulelo. We've missed you as well. So yeah, you've got to adapt and just modify your gym schedule a little bit so you can be here more often. So otherwise, you're going to miss your goal of learning from the great minds around the Zoom screen here. So Trevor, I thought you were heading down the panda route with your shooting there, but you know, clearly not. So it's not always black and white, is it?
Right, so I'm putting into the chat facility. I put Verne's theme up there because it was quite interesting, and it just outlined a trigger word for me. One of the most negative words in the English dictionary, as far as I'm concerned, and that is compromise. And so I have an uncompromising attitude to that word, compromise. And I changed your last sentence there. If you walk into a situation expecting a certain outcome, you need to be willing to understand and be prepared for your plans to be altered in the name of the situation, turning out the best in the long run. So to me, although it's not the direction that you went down, I focused on that word compromise. And I thought Ed would bring out his lexicon and give us some sort of definition of compromise, but I think I would put compromise versus understanding, because to me compromise, and Verne, I think this might appeal to you because I view you as extremely contractual and even transactional, although you're very much into relationships. But let's focus on the contractual side. Because I think why it is such a negative word to me is that compromise almost in the contractual term tends to indicate a lose-lose at most times. That individuals, and when you brought this up, I immediately thought of politicians. And politicians will turn around to you and say, listen, the greatest skill that you can have is to be a compromiser. Bull dust, man. That's why our country is in trouble, and international politics is in trouble, because these politicians don't stand up to their values. They actually compromise the moment that they actually get into some interaction with someone else in the other party. So if compromise means that someone in whatever the negotiation is going to be unhappy, and generally most of the times both parties are unhappy when it comes to compromise, because it means it doesn't get what they wanted to have to make themselves happy. To me, it shows a complete lack of understanding. And that is an understanding and respect of what's in it for me that the other individual wants. That's what stimulated in my mind. What else did I write down? That generally compromise, if you think about it, and you're going to divorce mediation. Where are our divorce mediators that used to be around here? Because in divorce mediation, this word compromise comes out all the time. In fact, I think attorneys have just ruined our world because they want everyone to compromise. So it's about dispute resolution more than actually understanding relationships. What else? I also thought that understanding tends to lead you down the path of either win-lose or win-win. Very unusual for compromise in a contractual negotiation to come out as win-win, although books have been written about that. So that's what you stimulated for me, Verne. I thought it was absolutely fantastic, but I've got an uncompromising attitude to BS. So anyone who throws BS in my direction or stabs me in the back or anything like that, let me tell you, can you count the fingers? 1, 2, 3, you're out of my life.
Thanks, Trevor. Yeah, okay. So we
Violence.
won't compromise on that going forward, I promise you. Yeah, I think for me, just to wrap up from, I think it's all been said pretty much, but for me, there are two elements that come out quite strongly. And the first is, I think you need to be authentic to yourself and authentic in your relationships and the way you're dealing with your relationships. So yeah, and that's the bottom line. If you can't be yourself, there's going to be gaps and holes somewhere along the line. And if you are yourself all the time, then you don't have to worry about not being yourself. So I think that's the key, because you're always going to get caught out if you're trying to be somebody else, at some point in time. And the other thing for me is it's not about failure, it's about learning. So, if, as Mpulela said, if you start down a route and it doesn't work, well, you've learned something. That route doesn't work. So you find another route, so you've learned. You don't keep on repeating the same mistakes over and over again, expecting the results to change, because guess what? They aren't going to change. You need to learn and adapt, and that's the final thing from my side. I think one of the things humans are great at, if they allow themselves, is to adapt. The old saying, adapt or die. I think it's as simple as that. You need to learn to adapt, and you adapt by learning. So yeah, that's the way I would wrap it up. Right, tomorrow, folks. Who's got something they'd like to chat about tomorrow? Any specific thoughts or topics? Open up and let us know. Otherwise, maybe we just have an open mic day. Trev, I don't know. What do you think? Ed, yeah?
I did wonder, seeing as we've done cartoons and films, and they say a picture paints 1,000 words, whether we could do a picture.
Okay, yeah. So picture it for tomorrow. What is your picture? Okay, fantastic. All right, let's go with that one. Good. Okay, thanks everyone. Have a fantastic day further going forward. Make it picture perfect, and we'll see you in the morning. Go well. Cheers.
Cheers. Bye-bye.